All right, we are live. I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the 2022nd edition for August the 9th. I'm really happy to be here. A little bit different show today. I didn't do much work. I guess I ended up doing a lot of work, but my whole business today is just doing a broadcast because I wasn't going to, because today is my birthday, and I wasn't going to do anything. But one of the things, if you're going to do this, you got to be consistent and you got to go on as much as you can. And I was doing that earlier in the year, and then the summer months came and I was working all my camps. And so I'm doing a RamView, and I'm basically, since we moved, we also got Spotify and iHeart for podcast. We're getting some new listeners or watchers. And I wanted to make sure people know who I am as a Ram fan. So it's going to be light, probably just a little too much of me today and not enough maybe news and discussion about certain things. But before we get into all that, let me share with you just a couple of things around the NFL that I saw, actually one in particular. And that one is the Rams' opponent this Saturday night. It's the Chargers. And I'm looking forward not only that during preseason, but also during the regular season. I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to be on the field and who's going to be playing. And that's the one thing about Rams, right? Starters don't play, or players the Rams think a lot of in terms of who's going to be engaged during the course of the season. They won't be on the field either. But one guy I don't expect to see on the field is Charger safety Derwin James. And James is in the last season of his original contract. He's 26 right now, and he's going to make 9 rocks this season. Before becoming a free agent in 2023, he's doing this thing called a hold in. And unless something broke today, I don't know if he signed a contract extension. And there's the rub right there, right? Rams, you're a safety, that first rookie contract. We love you. We love you. Now go get some money, go someplace else. It's almost like the mother of bird that loves its child in the nest and then just kicks it out of the nest and says, go ahead, as the Rams have done that with all their safeties. And it's interesting because the Rams play as defense similar to what the Chargers are playing now with Brandon Staley as head coach, broken off from the old Vic Fangio system for the too high safety. And Derwin James is fantastic. There's a whole lot of reasons to love Derwin James. Derwin James is better than any safety the Rams have had, including JJ, John Johnson, and some of the others that have been around the last decade or so. And so he forces a bigger issue because if you're going to get rid of a safety like Derwin James, you're getting rid of a superior talent. But here's the deal. James is 26 right now. He's a free agent when he turns 27. So that means he's probably looking for a 4-year contract, maybe 3-year contract. And that's going to take him to the age of 30. And then you got an issue because after playing all the games his rookie year in 2018, including 2 playoff games, Derwin James only played in 5 games in 2019. He missed all of 2020, and he played in 15 games a year ago. And so what do you do right now if you're the Chargers, right? And I was looking at, James isn't even in the top 10 of safeties making money this year. He's making 9, and so he's not even in the top 10 list. The top 10 safeties in the NFL right now are, as far as getting paid, are the Steelers' Minka Fitzpatrick, who they just inked. He's getting 18.2 rocks this season. The Seahawks' Jamal Adams, who they sent 2 number 1 picks to the Jets for a few years ago, he's making 17.5. The Vikings' Harrison Smith, he's making 16. The Broncos' Justin Simmons is making 52. And I just went through 4 players right there. And do you know how many of those teams made the playoffs? Steelers, Seahawks, Vikings, Broncos, none of them made the playoffs last year. The Cardinals' Budda Baker is making 14.7 rock. Now, they had a brief cup of coffee in the playoffs before the Rams dismantled them in the first in the wild card round. So at least the Cardinals made the playoffs. The Bears' Eddie Jackson is making 14.6. The Bears were nowhere near the playoffs. The Titans' Kevin Byard is making 14.1. The Titans were a one and done in the playoffs. The Ravens' Marcus Williams is making 14. The Seahawks, Quandre Diggs is making 13. So think about that. Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams, the 2 safeties for the Seahawks, are eating up over $30 million. 30 rocks for the Seahawks. That is how you put a team in a rebuild mode. And I don't even know if they realize they're in a rebuild mode. And then the number 10 highest paid safety is the Bengals' Jesse Bates. He's making 12.9. So literally 7 of the top 10 safeties in the NFL last year, only 3 made the playoffs. The Rams this year and last year combined are roughly paying $8 million, 8 rocks for all their safeties right now. Okay. If you look at the contracts right now, it's roughly 8.3, someplace in there. And that includes Russ East, Quentin Lank, Terrell Burgess, Taylor Rapp, Nick Scott, and Jordan Fuller. And then the Rams are coming off a Super Bowl. Where were the Steelers, Seahawks, Vikings, Broncos, Bears, Ravens last year? Bengals made it to the finals, but they were paying 12.9 and they lost. Titans and Cardinals were first-round bounces. And so what position are the Chargers in right now? You got a great safety, a safety you really like, but are you going to pay him Jamal Adams and Minkah Fitzpatrick money when you've got other issues? I don't know, right? I don't know if you want to pay him, especially when he's roughly missed 2 full seasons, 5 games over 2 years between 2019 and 2020. I just think it's something to keep an eye on. All right. The Rams officially activated Kyren Williams and Warren Jackson from the PUP list. I saw Kyren Williams running around yesterday, and so that was kind of cool. And so we'll get an indication of what we got in Kyren Williams on Saturday. I expect to see a lot of Kyren. I expect to see a lot of Jake Funk running the ball on Saturday night. And Warren Jackson needs to get back into this game because while he was highly touted earlier in the year as someone to keep an eye on, he's fallen behind in terms of who the Rams have brought into camp and wondering what they're going to get out of him. He's not a burner. He's not anything. He's a big guy with big hands. And so everyone's going to want to see what he does. And speaking of that, that includes Tutu Atwell. How much is Tutu Atwell going to play this Saturday night? Now, he needs the reps. He needs to play. But also, again, you cannot click on any Rams thread right now and not see everyone lauding the play of Tutu Atwell in this camp, right? So is Tutu Atwell going to play because he needs the reps, or does Tutu Atwell not play because the Rams have already made a decision he's going to be a key part of their offense going forward in 2022? Rams Chargers on Saturday night. Looking forward to that. So I am Joe Terosian. Hopefully folks on iHeart will get to know us. Thank you for those on YouTube and on Spotify that are clicking on. If you could leave comments, hit likes, leave responses, it just helps build our footprint as we get closer and closer to the football season. I spent 21 years as a paid sports writer, paid sports writer for Mid-Valley Sports. We helped found that. I left Mid-Valley Sports a few years ago. I started writing books. My book, Tangent Dreams and Temple City Company of the Ages, did very well. They are to be found on Amazon. They are high school football novels. I'm also a pastor, so I've written some explicitly Christian novels, and you could also find those on Amazon by typing in Joe Terosian, Torosian, and that helps support me what I'm doing because, hey, right now I'm small potatoes. I ain't making any dough doing this, and so I'm just trying to supplement my income that keeps me talking sports and keeps me preaching from the pulpit. All right, so there you go. You follow me at JoeT13B on Twitter. All right. Stuff about me, because it's my birthday and I wasn't going to broadcast, but I thought some stuff about me was important since we kind of added another platform, which I'm excited about. I am a Rams fan. I started watching the Rams in late 1972. I watched the full 1973 season, at least the games that were televised, and the games that weren't televised, we listened in our back room on KMPC and listened to Dick Enberg and Don Drysdale. Yes, Don Drysdale, the Hall of Fame pitcher for the Dodgers. He was the Rams color commentator alongside Dick Enberg. And on October 14th, 1973, Harold Jackson scored 4 touchdowns in the first half against the Cowboys, caught these long bombs from John Hadle, and I was a Ram fan for life. I was cemented there. So that has made this an obsession with me ever since then, since the age of 9, and I continue to be a Rams fan. I couldn't even shake them when they went to St. Louis, and I tried. I survived She Who Must Not Be Named. I survived Eddie Brown, who also must not be named. But I'm still a Rams fan. We always knew they were coming home when we started Mid-Valley Sports in the late 90s. And the whole goal was to cover the Rams when they came back to the NFL. I left Mid-Valley Sports, and the next year my guys started covering the Chargers. And right now, hey, I'm talking about the Rams, so I'm excited about that. In case you don't know it, you might have read it. I am a Don Klosterman guy. I think he is right next to Les Snead, is one of the greatest GMs in NFL history, and the Rams had him, and he was key to building those Ram teams of the 70s that also played well into the 80s. As far as hatred, I hate the Cowboys and the Saints. Can't stand them. And I have a strong dislike for the Vikings. Cowboys and Vikings, obviously, because of playoff losses. The Saints, I just get sick of hearing about the Saints. I'm sorry to them. Poor New Orleans. No, I hate New Orleans. So I hate the Saints. I was a big James Harris fan growing up. I loved James Harris. I did everything I could to emulate James Harris's throwing motion. I played some quarterback when I was a kid, and I would always emulate his throwing motion. I just look at myself in the mirror, look at pictures of and video of or any film we had on James Harris. So James Harris, I was a huge fan of his. That Dolphin game in '76 is still fresh in my memory. And I was so upset after leading the NFL in passing in '76, the Rams cut him loose. It wasn't a Chuck Knox decision. It came more from Rosenblum, wanted more flash and splash, and that's when they brought in Joe Namath in '77. Speaking of Rosenblum, I don't know what happened, but I believe as a Rams fan, there was something very fishy about Carol Rosenblum's drowning death in Florida prior to the 1979 season. I still have PTSD from Super Bowl 14. I watch the highlights, I hear John Facenda's voice, and I get this feeling that if I watch it enough, there's going to be a moment where Eddie Brown goes back into coverage. There's going to be a moment where Ferragamo finds Waddy in the end zone. There's going to be a moment where Nolan Cromwell holds on to a for sure pick six. There's going to be a moment. So I keep watching that, hoping for a change in history, some alternate ending. But so far, not so good. That game just carried a lot of emotion for me. And Eddie Brown, those words put together are trigger words for me if you say Eddie Brown. And if you don't know who Eddie Brown is, I'm not talking about the wide receiver for the Bengals in the 80s. I'm talking about the Eddie Brown. Every Ram fan should know who the infamous Eddie Brown was. And I understand the why of it, but I was really sad when the Rams traded Wendell Tyler. They had picked up, what's his name? Yeah, Eric Dickerson. And so, yeah, he was probably the greatest running back ever. Let's just be honest. You know, you don't have to love him or like him, but probably the greatest running back ever. Wendell Tyler by 83 was heading into his 7th season. By 83, he had already missed significant time in 80 and 80, 1980, and I think about 1978. I think he also had an injury in 78. He had missed significant time, and so the body was starting to catch up with him. He had some years left. The Rams got some stuff for him, but they traded him to the 49ers. They traded him within the division, and 2 years later, he won a Super Bowl. So think about this. This is something that really bugs me in terms of trading within the division. So in a 12-year period, the Rams were responsible for the 49ers acquiring Wendell Tyler, starting running back, ran for over 1,100 yards in 1984 in a Super Bowl championship year. They also played a part in the deal that allowed them to draft Hugh Millen. They gave up the draft choices for the 49ers to draft Charles Haley and Steve Wallace. And then they also made a draft day deal in 1994 for the 49ers to move up and draft Bryant Young. Yeah, say thank you to 49er fans in your dynasty because we contributed to that as Ram fans. John Shaw, and she who must not be named. Yeah, it makes me angry. I was not upset with the Eric Dickerson trade. I was tired of the Eric Dickerson drama. Now, Dickerson blamed his agent for his bad 83 deal. He renegotiated. He also had another bad agent. How he did not know who he was dealing with. And it wasn't racism. It was just the Rams were a bad organization under Georgia. And I wasn't against the trade so much because I loved who they like all the players they got in the draft. They also got Greg Bell. They made a really good 3-way trade with Buffalo and Indianapolis. And everything was great. I remember I was in the newspaper. I was on a deadline night with the Star News in Pasadena, and it came across the wire that Dickerson had been traded. Another reason why I loved the newspaper business, man. It was like pre-internet, and I'm seeing on the wire come across that Eric Dickerson had been traded in the old newsroom. The smell of hot wax burning everywhere. It was great. But while I supported the Dickerson trade, I hated who they drafted. And if you look at the history of that This is who the Rams drafted. It was terrible. Fortunately, in that whole period, they picked up Flipper Anderson, who was not part of that actually draft picks acquired, but it was just a bad period for the Rams and led to a demise that went on for over a decade, literally a decade. And again, why do I bring all these things up? Because if you're going to listen to me the first time on iHeart, if you're listening to me on Spotify, if you're watching me here on RamView, then you just need to know who I am and where I come from. The past informs the present. I do not know what happened to Jim Everett after the opening drive of the NFC title game in 1990. Up to that opening drive that ended in a field goal, if you remember that, up to that point, Jim Everett was the man ready to lead the Rams for another decade, all the way through the 90s. Jim Everett was the guy. And then, we could talk about Larry Roberts and the Phantom Sack, but after that, Jim Everett was never the same. But let's also remember that everyone around him, she who must not be named, John Shaw, they started pulling back on the purse strings as the move to St. Louis, was already in the works. And the talent around Jim Everett started to diminish. You get rid of security blankets like Pete Holohan, you get rid of Henry Ellard, you get rid of all these different guys, and also the draft picks didn't pan out, and they started getting old along the offensive line. And Bernd Brostek was good, but Bernd Brostek surely wasn't Doug Smith. You know what I'm saying? And Duval Love was good, but he wasn't Dennis Hara. And so there were just things that took place that I think contributed to Everett's struggles. And any quarterback, T.J. Rubley, whoever was coming in, Chris Miller, whose birthday is today, all those quarterbacks that came in after. So you understood maybe a little bit better how Jim Everett struggled. When I say she who must not be named, of course, I'm referring to Georgia Frontiere. Those are also trigger words for me. Going forward, jumping ahead, Mike Jones needs to be in the Rams SoFi Ring of Honor. I don't know if the Rams have a Ring of Honor. I haven't made it into SoFi, but Mike Jones, for one tackle alone, needs to be in the Ring of Honor. God bless Mike Jones. Sean McVay is the greatest coach in Rams history, greatest HC, and that should be recognized no matter what happens going forward. The guy is fantastic. I've watched the last two Rams Super Bowl appearances alone by choice. I say this because I don't think much of going to sports bars, and I will not watch football. I will not watch my Rams play, the Rams team that I support. I will not watch them with riffraff. If you're watching the Rams with me, you better be invested in the Rams, or invested at the very least into the game. I don't want to hear about commercials. I don't want you to start a conversation with me about what's taking place in Washington, D.C., how Trump sucks, Biden sucks, or whoever, while I'm watching the Rams, on a third quarter drive, try to build on a 10-point lead. I don't want to hear about that. So I've had people ask me, do you want to come to our Super Bowl party? I say, if the Rams aren't in the Super Bowl, hey, I'll come to your Super Bowl party. I'll record the game at home and go back and really watch the game later, but I'll hang out with you. But when the Rams are in the Super Bowl, unless you're completely 100% invested, I'm watching the Super Bowl alone, and that's by choice. And that's the way I roll. You don't go to the sports bar. I despise we're talking to Ram fans in this, sports bar after the game and how they feel. Everyone's screaming into the camera. And yeah, I don't want to lose followers and listeners just yet, but yeah, that's not me. I am biased, but I do believe that Matthew Stafford's no-look pass to Cooper Kupp on the game-winning drive while trailing in the fourth quarter was the greatest pass in Super Bowl history. I knew it was pretty good when I saw it, and then when I think Collinsworth pointed out that it was no look, and then you saw the highlights, it was no look, it just became just phenomenal. I don't know until Patrick Mahomes emulates that in a Super Bowl in a fourth quarter, team trailing on a game-winning drive. That's the standard for a no-look pass. A no-look pass in Week 5 against the Giants, whatever. But I believe in a few short years, maybe even sooner, that pass to Cooper Kupp will be held in the same regard as the catch, Dwight Clark's catch that beat Dallas in '81, and of course the drive of the Broncos when they beat the Browns in Cleveland with John Elway, the pass to Mark Jackson. I don't know what it'll be called. I don't know. Maybe it'll be called the no look. I don't know what it is. But the more and more you see the highlight of that play, your heart has to stop. It's just, to me, one of the greatest plays ever. in the history of the game. Also, probably in sports that I've seen. I just think that thing was just unbelievable, given the situation and the climate and everything that was taking place then. All right, so I got that through. I hit the 20-minute mark, which I wanted to do. I just want a reminder that the Monday's podcasts this season will be passionate and more emotional than analytical, because I'll have to vent. And I think we're all like that, right? We're all going to vent. And then we're going to come back on Tuesday and start breaking it down. And then on Wednesday, really start looking forward to what's going to happen the following Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, or Monday. Rams got a lot of Sunday night and Monday games this year, and we understand why. Again, I believe the past informs the present, so I will always be looking back for historical links, players with certain numbers, repeat of game scores, and of course, all those threads that I do enjoy fishing out, and how one thing leads to another. So there we go. I did it. Wow. On my birthday. So be patient with me. I just don't always tell you my whole past every week. Every day I usually just talk sports and about Rams. But I told you about my background, how I became a Rams fan, what I think is a Rams fan, and wanted to get that across. All right. It is 21:01. And thank you so much for clicking on. And please hit like, share. Hit those good rating comments so I can build footprint as we love talking Ram football. I'm Joe Tarosian. Take care.